Alright, I wanted to do a video talking about State of Play and kind of in defense of State of Play, the most recent one, but this kind of encompasses all of the State of Plays.
State of Play sucks!
Yeah, okay, let me just get on with the video. I'll explain it. Let me defend it a little bit. Let me critique it a little bit. Nah, State of Play sucks, and so do you. If you like State of Play, you suck as well. Okay, let me give me 1 minute to just finish the intro, and then we'll talk. Okay, is that alright?
You suck!
So, sadly, that guy kind of represented a lot of my comment section about the last State of Play. I wanted to make a video about how State of Play was kind of disappointing last week, but also how we kind of need to manage our expectations about State of Play as well, and what Sony tell us about State of Play. So, let's talk about State of Play.
You suck! You suck! You suck! You suck!
Before we kick on, if this is the first video of mine you've ever checked out, hello, welcome, my name's Josh, and I would love it if you join my family and hit the subscribe button down below. It would not only help me out enormously and help this channel grow, but also you can stay up to date on all of those videos as well. If you're an existing viewer, you're a legend. Don't forget to hit the like button down below to explode this video in the YouTube algorithm. I want to kind of talk about State of Play a bit more candidly with you guys, because I think there's a lot of things that we need to do as an audience to kind of manage your expectations with State of Play a little bit more, as well as things that Sony can do better to manage our expectations as an audience about State of Play. And I think there needs to be kind of a thing where we come together on this and we kind of agree a little bit, because unfortunately a lot of the commentary for the previous State of Play was very negative, and well, you know, I'm disappointed that we didn't see some of the games we wanted to see as well. Are we being honest with ourselves? Were we really were ever going to see those games? Were those games ever going to be featured in the State of Play, or was that just us kind of kidding ourselves a little bit? Now, if we do actually break the most recent State of Play down a little bit, it kind of did feature everything that we probably would have actually expected it to feature. Sony put out a notice saying they have a State of Play in a couple of days' time, which was obviously a week or two ago now, where they were going to talk about some new upcoming games. They never mentioned some massive AAA games. They never said they were going to be talking about Horizon or God of War or anything like that. So I think, you know, while they didn't do a particularly great job about managing our expectations in that sense, they did do some of it. Now, as I said during my live stream on the State of Play conference, Nintendo do a fantastic job with these. They normally manage expectations perfectly. They say, hey, we have a mini Nintendo Direct where we're going to be talking about Animal Crossing, or we're going to be talking about indie games, or we're going to be talking about a couple of upcoming new releases. Or they say we have a Pokemon Direct, or they say we have a full-scale big Nintendo Direct. And the audience knows, you know, I'm a Nintendo fan as well. I know it doesn't look like it, but I am. And the audience really knows what they're getting in for with Nintendo, because they manage your expectations. They tell you if it's an Animal Crossing or a Pokemon or a mini or a full, and you know whether or not it's worth your time tuning in or catching the highlights later. And I think that's one of the biggest things that Sony is missing with State of Play. I don't think they're clear enough on managing expectations for what State of Play is going to include, what kind of games are going to be featured, because I think if you remove the fact that a lot of people were expecting Horizon and God of War and The Last of Us and all sorts of crazy stuff in there, and I know it sounds like a joke, but if you read my comment section, that's what you guys were expecting. If you remove that expectation, I think the State of Play event was perfectly fine. We saw some stuff from Final Fantasy, which was cool. We saw Deathloop, which was cool. We saw some new gameplay for Returnal, which I'm still kind of not sold on. And we saw a bunch of, you know, smaller games in there, as well as a couple of their sort of bigger heavy hitters. And I think it did a decent enough job. You know, the only thing I think it was missing for a early 2021 State of Play was probably a little bit of more information about Ratchet & Clank. But I'm guessing that they're going to do a deep dive into Ratchet & Clank in its own State of Play, which is going to be just for Ratchet & Clank, which is probably why we haven't seen it. Similar to what they did with Ghost of Tsushima and The Last of Us Part 2, where they had their own individual State of Play events to do a deep dive on those two titles. And I think that's a really good way of doing it. I think we just had way too high expectations. If you guys have recently noticed, Sony have been announcing more of their games through the PlayStation blog and through Twitter and things like that with release dates. So you're not often seeing things being held for conferences or State of Plays to get a big reveal anymore. That's not really how Sony does it. They didn't wait for E3 to do big reveals. They didn't wait for E3 or PlayStation Experience or any of these conferences to reveal release dates for games or to give updates on games. They kind of just do it via the PlayStation blog whenever they feel like it. And I think if we keep that in mind, then there shouldn't be a reason that we are sitting there thinking, hey, this is the event for Horizon, when realistically Horizon could just drop, or the date for Horizon could just drop at any point. Similar to how it did for Ratchet and Ghost of Tsushima and even The Last of Us Part 2 when those games' dates were released. So that's the first kind of point I sort of want to manage is around how Sony reveal dates now, and it's not through a big conference anymore. And I think the sooner we kind of get on board with that and that new style that they do, I think the more we're going to understand what kind of stuff is going to be included in here. And that's kind of my second point. Third point is, like, the show isn't actually terribly pulled together. If you watch a Nintendo Direct, it probably has a bit more of a personal touch on it because they have people talking in it throughout it and introducing things. I think State of Play is definitely lacking that. That's probably a critique I would have for it, is trying to put more of a human touch on it. My guess is that they're trying to do this, and that's why a lot of the trailers did feature voiceover. And you would have noticed when I was doing commentary over it, it was hard because there was so much voiceover. But it does sort of lack that human touch. So that's kind of my third critique for State of Play, or my third point for this video. The fourth point as well is really about time management. Now, it's a 20 or 30 minute event, which I think is fine. It's a perfectly fine length for a conference like this, but I think a lot of the trailers in the most recent State of Play didn't respect the viewer's time very much. There was a bunch of stuff in there for some of the games that just went on and on and on and on, and they didn't need to be. They needed to be more snappy, they needed to be more quick and clicky and things like that, and I think a lot of the content that was featured just wasn't. It was a little bit disrespectful of the viewer's time, and I feel like they kind of beat around the bush a little bit, over-explaining things, wasting, valuable screen time where they could have included more trailers. And maybe that's just a scenario of needing to fill the 20 minutes. But if you're getting to that point, maybe don't do the State of Play. Don't fill the 20 minutes, because if you're filling time, that's never really a good thing. Those are kind of the main points I wanted to talk about. It's about Sony managing their expectations and really enunciating what is going to be featured so people know exactly what's going to happen. They did a good job of it in 2020, making sure you knew it wasn't a PS5 event, it wasn't a Last of Us event. They made it really clear, and I don't know why they're not doing that as much here. But also on our side, managing our expectations as well about way Sony release announcements and the way they reveal things. So making sure that both Sony and the audience manage expectations. And I'm going to do a better job of trying to get people on the right page when we host these events in the future. But that's the first point. The second point is around how Sony reveal dates now, and it's not through a big conference anymore. And I think the sooner we kind of get on board with that and that new style that they do, I think the more we're going to understand what kind of stuff is going to be included in here. The third point being that human touch element as well, making sure that these events are a little bit more humanized and not so computerized, I would say, so they do feel a bit more personal. And then the fourth point, making sure that trailers are respectful of your time and are holding your attention. I think Sony are so used to showing these big AAA trailers during their E3 conferences that they haven't quite found the balance of showing off indie titles, which may not have the same appeal as a God of War or a Last of Us, where it's going to keep the viewer's attention. And if you lose your viewer's attention, they're just going to switch off, and anything you try and teach them or tell them at that point is out the window. Let me know what you guys think as well. This is more of a just discussion about State of Play, and let's talk about it, but maybe we do a full video about critiquing State of Play as well, and I can take some of your comments from the comments down below, and we can make a full video about why State of Play is good or how they could improve State of Play for the next one. Curious to get your thoughts down in the comments below on what you think of it as well. And don't just say it was terrible. I don't think it was terrible. I think it was just expectations weren't managed effectively. And I think that's the biggest and most important takeaway of all of this. As always, curious to get your thoughts in the comment section down below. Give a like to help this video out. Subscribe if you're not already. And I'll see you gamers all in the next one.